Mhm. Welcome to the channel. For those of you who don't know, name's Ryan. Go by the name Ryan Stone on this. And a lot of people have been asking, and so I figured I would put together a proper live stream, a proper recording. This video is how to make a YouTube video. It's how to make a edited video, how to add the music to the video. Essentially, all the things that I've learned over the past 3 years on how to make a video. So I will say it's not software agnostic. There's some specific sets of equipment and software that I'm going to suggest you get. It's usually the best. Doesn't matter what your price point is. This is essentially where you want to go. And there's going to be a couple things that I will go over in some depth and some things I'll go over in not so much depth. So for example, what's going to be learned here, we're going to talk about software, hardware, workflow, editing, color grading, and touching on a little bit of special effects, typography, and the settings on YouTube. What's not going to be covered here is any part of the creative process, cinematography, or how to record videos, whether you're doing it online or off. So we're going to start with the basic tools that you need for setup. So in order to do the minimum amount, actually, you know what? I'm going to do some proper timestamps on this so we can follow along and you can skip ahead to whatever you want to use. So we're going to put 2 minutes in. Oh, hey, how's it going, guys? Good to see you. Okay. First off is hardware. If you've seen me on my live streams, I've talked about it quite a bit. It turns out that most people go through the same process of buying the hardware for their setups. And so I'm just going to save you a bunch of time here and cut right to the most cost-effective use of your time. Most people will start off, they buy their standard webcam, which is one of those 720, you know the one. Everybody's got it. You end up looking at it, you realize the colors are washed out, there's too much overexposure, and so you decide to upgrade, and eventually you get to the point where you get to a fancy, I believe it's the C600, the Canon, that people end up using. They buy a capture card. I'll save you all the trouble. For your video, when you want to film on the outside, just use your cell phone. If you have a decent quality cell phone, you're able to film in 1080p from it. You're going to be easily able to pick up any sort of tripod to hold it together, and you'll be able to copy the files from your phone to your computer fairly straightforward. Now, if you're recording from a fixed position, such as this, the piece of equipment you're looking for is the Mikos 4K. If you've never seen it, I'll have a link for it in the description once this video's up and running. It's a small boxed size. It's maybe the size of your palm of your hand. It's a camera. I'm working off one right now. It uses the same sensor as a professional quality camera, but it's just a webcam. You add your lens to it, so it's got DSLR quality to it. It's going to cost you about $160 plus shipping, and it's literally the last camera you're ever going to have to buy for any type of YouTube filming career, like, you know, face-to-face like this stuff. Next up is audio. Most people start with the headset that they get for their phones. They notice it's really raspy, it's kind of muddled. They eventually upgrade, and everybody always gets the same Yeti, the blue Yeti. Everybody knows the blue Yeti. It's the big USB-shaped mic there. They kind of like that one a bit better. And then eventually, if you've been doing it for a while and you decide that you want to start taking it seriously, you're going to go with an XLR microphone. And then everybody always aspires to what's called the SMB7. If you don't know which one that is, look at any big podcast. It's those giant phallic-shaped microphones. You can't miss them. Those are expensive. The Blue Yeti is expensive. Let's just spend the proper amount of money to get the most cost-effective professional setup you can get. What you want for your microphone is one that's called an SM57. It's this microphone. You may recognize it as anytime you've ever seen a person in a concert singing on stage, they run one of these. Except for theirs is called an SM58. The difference is it has that little metal ball on the top. I'm sure you've seen it. It has been the gold standard in microphones for about 70 years. So you will not ever have to buy anything past this. You buy it, it's about $100. It's not very expensive. You get whatever stand for it you need. And then the second piece of equipment you're going to need is a preamp. Now, there's all kinds of options out there, and you get as fancy as you want, but you just want your microphone to work. So I would suggest the Focusrite Scarlett. I think it's also called the 212, but you can't miss it. It's a red box. It's got one input on it. You plug your microphone into that. You plug your headset into there, so you got your monitoring aspects. You plug the USB into your thing. That's it. Your audio and your video setup are done. So instead of starting with that $100 webcam mic, starting with a $200 Blue Yeti, then upgrading, trying to get like a $500 SMB7 plus one of them Rodecaster preamps, you're just going to spend $200 on the preamp. You're going to spend $100 on the microphone. You're going to spend $150 on the camera, and you're never going to have to look at it again. Your hardware is set. Use your phone for anything you want to film outside, and you're done. Next up is software. Now I'm going to change my time here to match these. Software is even easier. There's only two real pieces of equipment two pieces of software you're going to need for editing videos. The first one is called OBS. Something broadcast software. I don't remember what it stands for. Just OBS, not Streamlabs, OBS. I'm not going to talk about how to install and how to run it and all the settings. That's going to be a different video. Just know if you're going to record game footage off your computer, if you're sitting down speaking into it right now, like right now, this is all streaming to YouTube through OBS. If I'm recording a video, I can also record this, put it on as a file, and then edit that and put it on there as well. So as long as you're from a fixed position using your Makos camera, it's going to be perfect for you. And the next piece of software, the one that I'm going to probably be talking more in depth about, is editing software. So obviously, unless you do everything perfect in a single take, and nobody does, and you want to make a video look somewhat well put together, you're going to need some kind of editing software. Now, everybody suggests all these different types. Ignore all that. Davinci Resolve is the last and only editing software you're ever going to need. It is the alpha and the omega. It is the best thing that's ever existed. And the best part is it's free. It's professional quality. People edit Hollywood films on this piece of software, and it's free because they want everybody to use it, so that way you have to buy all their expensive camera gear if you want to go film a video. There's a paid version which you can get, and I have that one myself, so if I use some options on here, I sometimes may mistake things that are from the paid version for the not paid, but I'm pretty sure about 95% of what you need, unless you want to start adding film grain or lighting effects or some of the more fancy special effects options, you shouldn't even have to worry about it. So right there, you're spending $0 on your software and $500 or less on all of your equipment, and now you have a fully functional channel. Next part, moving on from here, is going to be 8 minutes. Your basic setup. So when you film things, and this is going to be the small bit of filming knowledge you should have. If you're filming either inside or outside the studio, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. One, always film 5 seconds before and 5 seconds after the thing you want to film. If you're sitting here and you're giving a speech or an introduction to some video you're going to do, stop speaking and stare quietly at the camera for 5 seconds before you start and 5 seconds after you finish. That's going to save you a ton of work in the editing process if you plan on doing any dissolves, if you have to do any edits. Trust me, just do it. Secondly, some people want to get really fancy with the audio mastering, and when they record, they don't record the audio and the video on the same channel. They record audio through Audacity, for example, and then the video through OBS, or use their phones, but then record on this professional thing here. Actually, that's probably a better example. Using your cell phone to record because you want to move around and do stuff, but your microphone is still attached to your computer, so you're recording things separately. The one thing you want to do then is you want to use what's called a clacker board. Now, you don't actually need a clacker board. If you don't remember what those are, there's the little black and white boards. They say take one and click them together. The idea is you're getting a visual and audio cue that are synchronized so you can link up the audio to the video together. What you can do in place of that is just a loud clap. When you're editing, you then take the scene as soon as your hands touch, and as soon as the audio starts to spike, you link those two together, and then your audio will be synced throughout the rest of your video. Those two things there will save you a ton of effort. Now, we are going to skip to the software side of things. So, startup. Oh, last thing. So when you're doing Davinci Resolve, there's always a decision, which version do you want to get? Now, for most of my videos, 90% of the time, I've used what's on version 17 currently by the making of this video, and I always used version 15. I found version 15 to be the best. It was snappy, it was responsive, you never had worries about slowdowns or extra caching and that sort of stuff. 15 tends to be your best friend. Now, if you want to invest some money into it, you want to get the paid version, I would strongly suggest you pick up what's called a speed loader. You probably have seen me use this thing before. You buy a speed loader along with a license for the program. That'll set you back about $600 altogether. But if your channel is like a professional channel, the amount of time you save on the editing process using it more than pays for itself in a fairly reasonable length of time. I'm not going to be using it for this video because the idea is you're just getting started and you don't want to invest in your channel unless you know you're going to get a return on it. So I would say hold off on that until you know you can save enough time editing videos that you can make back that in a couple months time. That's fine. So next part is the video itself. Now, is it going to show me? Oh, it's not. All right, one sec. There we go. This part here is the project manager. When you start up your Davinci Resolve, you're going to get what's called a project manager. Yours is going to be empty. What I'm going to suggest is when you make videos, you need to have a template in the same way that a sitcom has a template. You know, sitcoms, they always have the same structure to them. They always have the same characters. It's a fairly reliable plot line, and it makes sense. Hanna-Barbera is the pioneer for this for animation. They basically reused everything. Now, the reason this is going to be important, and you're going to see this on the first proper video you make, you're going to notice the editing process takes a long time. You have to make a ton of decisions about what element's going to go in where, what audio is going to go in where, what you keep, what you kill. And it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of brain power. Your first your first 10-minute video is probably going to take a full day, maybe 2 to edit. But as you get better with it, you're going to start to get faster with it. And when you have templates, you can crank them out fairly quickly. So we're going to do here, starting up, new project. Calling it the live stream. At this point, Davinci will take you into your basic window. Switch the timestamps now, and then we're going to start talking about 12 minutes. Getting around the window. I will strongly suggest, if you have a 2-monitor setup, to get it. Because when you set this up on 2 monitors, it becomes way less cluttered and way easier to follow along with way more things right at a glance. The way you switch between those two is you go to the Workspace tab. Does it show? Oh, it doesn't show the drop-down menu. Anyways, in the Workspace tab, there's going to be a drop-down menu. The 7th piece on there is going to be an option called Dual Screen. You turn that on. I can't show you now because we're filming this on a video, and I can't do a double screen show, so whatever. There's a bunch of tabs, a bunch of options, a bunch of buttons. Ignore all of it. I'm going to show you the bare bones minimum you need to know to get a video going. So from this window, you want to go to what's called the Edit tab. The Edit tab is where you're going to do the majority of your work when you're not using a speed loader. It's where you create your film. It's where you create your edits. It's where you create everything. First thing you want to do is you want to head to the bottom left. You can see I'm mousing over this button here. It's called a timeline view option. When you click that, it's going to give you options, and all that's important to know now is it's going to save you some work in the future. Go to your timeline view options, select stacked timelines. Think of a timeline as the movie you're making. You can have multiple movies on the same channel. What it does, though, is it creates a bunch of tabs just like you have in your Chrome browser. So if you want to edit specific parts, specific sections, depending on how you organize it, just as we go through, you're going to see how it makes your life easier. Anyway, so that's going to be your initial timeline. Other things you can have here for view options, thumbnail view, simple view. I just leave it as a film strip. For the audio, now sometimes this matters for you. It's mostly personal preference. You can view things as a waveform. So like, bulbous on both sides. You can view it here as a full waveform. Some people like that better. And then this one here, which is a waveform border. Again, as you go through, you're going to find which one works best for you. So don't worry about it too much. The windows here, the big one, now this may not pop up, but this is probably the most important buttons you're going to need. There's the media pool and there's the effects button, which bring up these extra windows. The media pool is all of the videos in your project. So what I'm going to do here, I've got a bunch of old footage that I used for my old red pilled coffee video. So essentially we're going to make a video of waking up in the morning and making a pot of coffee. That's it. I have that. I have some music. I have some photos. Anything you want to put in here. All you do, you drag it to your media pool. And then as you do, it inputs everything into here. As you can see, you have a full list of all the videos you can use. You can either view it as a list. I prefer to view it as thumbnails. You have a search function. And this is going to be another thing that's important for organization and workflow. Try to keep a naming scheme together. So for example, if you have time-lapse footage, maybe you put a TL in front of whatever the text is on it. If you have stuff that's made for certain scenes, you can give them a certain numerical value. However you organize it is up to you, but have it organized to the point that you're easily able to find one thing or another. As you can see for me, I keep it pretty simple. That's the boil, that's pan, grind, tap. All these things are things that I use. There's some dog stuff. Unfortunately, no nudes. That's okay. The music will pop up in its own thing. For music, I guess as a small aside here, it's good to add music to your videos. It's not required, but if you do, there's two sources I would suggest you go to. The easiest free one is there's a YouTube audio library. And you can use any of the tunes on there. Just follow the prompts, download it, add it to your video. That's fine. The one I use is Epidemic Sound. It's got kind of a better list of items, and you can also view what's called stemps. So for example, you can have a song, but then you can have it broken down to just the drums, just the instrumental, just the melody. Something to keep in mind that you can do on your videos as well. Oftentimes, and this is going to be more of a technical hack, when you're recording things, there's background noise. There's an air conditioner going off in the background because you don't have a studio. You're just some guy recording shit in his basement, right? You may have that. Oftentimes, what you can do is have a background tune playing, which kind of levels out that noise. Now, you can get really good at audio editing, but that takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of effort. This will save you a ton of time in the future. So now that we've gotten to that part, close the media pool. The next window you're going to become very familiar with is the effects window. The effects window has anything you're going to be using that's most likely not a video. So for example, you're going to have transitions. Now we're going to talk about cuts in a minute, cuts, transitions, and that sort of thing. They're all going to be in the video transition section. The audio transition section, I've never had a need for it. You're not doing professional quality. Don't worry about it. Titles. This one is going to be your most important thing. Anytime you add any sort of text, and that's going to be in a later chapter, it's going to come through here. Generators, I don't know if this is on your version, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but it's just something that they use to procedurally generate shit that can work. So the example here, if you want the old Technicolor edits to show, back to effects. A noise gradient, if you need noise, paper, texture, it's there if you need it. I've never needed it. Don't worry about it. And then effects. They have their own effects here. This is something new. I don't know if it's on the unpaid version or the paid version. It's there if you need it. I wouldn't really worry about it. The one that's going to be important for you is something called Open Effects. Now, Open Effects is probably the most useful effects menu on here. You're going to have everything. This is like different types of blurs. So if you want to add some blurring to your stuff, color transformations, the James generator, again, I don't use that one too much. Same thing as the FX keys. There's a lot of options here. Don't worry about learning all of them. You're never going to learn it all. Just learn the basics you need. I find blur is useful. I find the FX light is useful. If you ever want to do lens flares or light rays, it's come in handy. Not refine, not revival. The sharpen menu, obviously. And then stylize. They have some neat ones. You might be able to use them. You might not. The only ones I'm a fan of are prism blur, scan lines, and edge detect. They got some motion blur, motion trails. It's useful if you want it. If you don't know what something is, chances are you don't need it. One you might recognize if you've ever watched my advertisements for the podcast is I have one called analog damage, which makes your video look like it's coming from a VHS tape. Same thing as film damage, so you can make it look like an old 35 millimeter. Film grain, which I know is a paid option, so you probably won't get that, which is just adding film grain. JPEG damage is another fun one you can add too. Makes it look like old CGA type stuff. But that's if you want to play around. Don't really need these. Don't really need these. So here's what you can do. Go through the menu, see the kind of options that you either know about or you want to use. There's a star beside them. Click it, add it to your star list. Now what you're going to see is a favorites list. So you only need maybe 5 different effects out of this entire list of 100 things. Put them all here, and you have them at just a quick glance. It's going to save you a ton of time. So back to Media Pool. Let me see here. Okay. The options down below here in this bar are also important. There's also some keyboard shortcuts, so I'll mention both if I know both. I'll only mention the one if I only know one. The first option is A, and that's this one here, the selection mode. If you want to select something, we'll start with, I guess, actually, you know what? We'll start with the sunset or the sunrise. So you can see here, if you want to make a video, if you want to make your timeline have videos on it, you click it from your media pool and drag it down to your window. Here's your zoom feature. Zooms it in, zooms it out. You're going to be using that a lot. As you can see, here is where your playhead is, and you can drag it back and forth, view everything. The speed loader is actually much better for this, but whatever, we're doing it by mouse. Same thing as when you click into areas. When you click on an object, you're going to apply things just to that object. Now, the A key, or the, what they call it again, selection mode, allows you to click things, drag them around. You can also, if I want to make this half the length it is, like if I want it to stop right here, you go to the end of the clip and you'll see what looks like a double bracket. Click that, drag it to where you want it. In order to save yourself some time, what I'm going to suggest is you take your playhead and you put it to where you want it to end. So if I want this to end just before the sun pops out, put my playhead there, I drag this here, and it will click into place. That way you can get things pixel perfect. Now there's this other option here where there's a single one as well. There's some differences on it. Don't worry about that too much. That only matters when 2 clips are put together. So for example, let's just do twice here. If there's 2 put together, and I want to just move this one, it's the single barrier. If I want to move both of them, use the double barrier. It's a neat little option. Also, oh yeah, here, I'll show you another one. When you're editing a video, there is 2 ways to delete a clip. I don't want it anymore. The first one is backspace. Backspace removes this clip, does not touch the timeline. The delete key removes that clip and takes everything in front of it and drags it over. Be careful with that one, because if you have a lot of different video layers running, a lot of different audio layers, it can kind of mess up the timing in some areas. So I would suggest, unless you know exactly what's going to happen, just stick with the backspace key and manually move things over. So I don't use the trim edit mode very much, the dynamic trim mode. The blade edit, on the other hand, I use a lot. I use the B key, but you can click it there as well. It will change your cursor into a razor blade. Now, the reason you want that is because you want to make a cut. Go back to A. As you can see, you can cut it up into as many pieces as you want to. Control Z to remove it. Again, with this one, what I would strongly suggest is move your playhead to where you want it and then make a cut, because it'll snap to that specific area there. Because if you're doing it like this, it can be a pain in the ass. Now, of the options I use, the next one I use is the magnet option, snapping. That's the N key. This is important because I want this to snap right to it. Awesome. If that's not there, it's never going to snap. And then if I start pushing, as you can see, you replace what's already there. Kind of annoying. You can also, if you're holding this down, push N and you can turn it off, but it still keeps it on. It just does it for that specific clip. So if you normally are playing without any type of snapping to windows, but this one you want to snap, as you hold, click and drag, tap in. Saves you some hassle there. Leave that on. This next op here, Control Shift L, is about linking. So I need, let's just take this. Doesn't really matter. So in this case, you have an audio and a video channel. I can take this audio, move it around, take the video, move it around. If you select both of them, you can link them. Oh. You have to do it twice if they're not. When you film something that has audio integrated in it, like an OBS StreamYard or an OBS recording, this is automatically going to be here. So what you do then is, oh, come on, why are you being like this? There we go. Once these become linked, oh, there's another option. I can never remember where it is, where it does two things. One, it moves them as a single unit, and two, it just tells you how out of sync it is. I'm not going to fiddle around with it right now. Just know, if you start seeing this window, it's because things are out of sync. Sometimes it doesn't matter, sometimes it does, but that's the purpose behind linking here. Oh, there it is, position lock. Oh, sorry, position lock just locks a frame if you don't want to accidentally move anything in the frame. That's mostly what you're going to need here. The only other option you're going to need is this one here, markers. Markers are a godsend. Whenever you want to make a point that you want things to snap to, have nothing selected, push M, make yourself a marker. Perfect. Now, anytime you make a video, it'll snap to that area. Cursor will snap to the area, so you can always go to that area. This comes in handy. Let's say every time you make a video, you have a 5-second introduction. You make a 5-second marker on there, so no matter what happens, you know how far you have to go, you know where you get to cut things. It's great. You can also make them in different colors if you want to. I've never found the need for this, but you can always do that if you want to. Just click the little thing, make that. These are bookmarks. You're not making DVDs, doesn't matter. Now, there's a second thing you could do. You can make relative markers as well. So if I have, for example, the time lapse selected, and I want to make a note of exactly when the sun comes out, while it's selected, add a marker. Now you're going to see there's a marker specifically on the video. So anytime I'm editing something, let's say I don't want the music to start until the sun comes out, right there. Clips it right to it, saves you a lot of hassle. Let me see where did I leave off here. Markers. I think that's about good. Oh, last thing is the timeline editor. So this is what's going to be on the right here. It's called the inspector. Again, you see this tab here, inspector. You don't need to worry about the metadata one, the mixer. I've never used either one. I don't do a lot of audio on this one anyway. I just kind of, because you're on YouTube, you don't need to do, you're not doing a Marvel movie, right? There is video, audio, and effects. Now, they matter. So if you remember from before, where we went to the effects menu, let's say I want to add a prism blur to this. The effects menu becomes option. If there's an audio track, it gives me an audio option. If there's a video track, it gives me a video option. At this point, you just click what you want. There's a few options here that are important, others not so much. Zoom, straightforward. Zoom in, zoom out. If you click that, you unlock it. You can stretch it or shrink it, doesn't matter. Same thing as position, move things to the left, move things to the right. Rotation. An anchor point. So here's the thing. When you're zooming in, it always does it from the middle. But, for example, if I make my anchor point 300 pixels to the, I think it's the right with a positive, now when I zoom, it's zooming from that point. It's something that's good to know. It doesn't matter. There's like 8 different ways to do this however you want to. These buttons right here reset things to their default. So if you make some changes and you don't like it, you can reset it. You can go up to here and reset the entire thing if you want to as well. The next option are these little dots here. And what these do is they create movement. So for example, we're going to take that marker, click and drag it to this point. And let's say we want this scene, as it's playing, to go from here and then zoom in until here where it's at twice the zoom. So what you do, as you can see, they'll become left and right arrows. You create a moment. I don't know what they're called. I think they're also called markers. Doesn't really matter. And I want the video to be 100% zoom at this point. I go to the next point, and I want this to be 200% zoom. So you can either click this or just drag it up or type it. You can also click and drag on this window. So I want this to be twice. As you can see, little arrows pop up that allow you to scroll between each different marker so you can fine-tune things. And then as you see, the filming goes normal. But in this part, it starts to zoom out until you get all the way to here. If you want to test this stuff for yourself, the spacebar is the play button. Another thing that's useful instead of a play button is a speed button, because if you watched it 100 times, you don't want to watch it again. You hold Shift and L. It'll go twice as fast. You hit Shift and L, it'll go twice as fast again. As you can see now, we got the zoom effect going on, like 4 times as fast as normal. So you can kind of see, as long as the effect is going good, that's great. You've also got your controls here. These buttons will switch between edits. So for example, if you're on this clip, you want to move to this clip. There. Switch between the clips. How useful is that? Again, everything you want to do here is 100 different ways of doing it. At the same time, you can flip your image horizontally, vertically. Smart reframe, never used, don't care. We're going to reset everything back to normal here. Cropping is the next one. By the way, you can always turn these things off and on through the tab here. Now, cropping exists because, I don't know, maybe you have some things that you don't want to put in the shot, maybe you want to fix, whatever. You can change how far you crop the video to the left, to the right, to the top, to the bottom, and then the softness will blur the edges a bit, either in or out. Pretty fancy, right? At the same time, you can also set markers on them, so maybe as the video goes through, we're going to do a quick little example here. We make it so. Let's say the left crops about this far. As you play, the crop comes in. Fancy, right? Why does that matter? I don't know. Maybe you just watched 2 episodes of 24 and you want to add that little fancy mosaic thing you got. Doesn't matter. Dynamic zoom. I've never used it. Don't really care. Composite. Actually, you know what? Most of these options aren't really necessary. Lens correction, you're not going to have that on the free version, and it's not really important anyway unless you're filming on proper film equipment. Same thing as real-time and scaling. Speed change is nice. Actually, this is nice. There's another way I've learned to do it, so I'll show you both of those. But composite. This matters when you have multiple videos overlapping each other. So for example, let's take this one and just double it up, but they're skewed. So I want this video to be half opacity so you can see the other one through it. Oh, for crying out loud. What should happen is, as you can see, as you drag this up and down, you could have it fade into something else. Now that's going to be a cutting effect that I'm going to show you on the next section here. You can also have it add. It's color, burn. All these options mean, and it's an old photo developing thing here, add just takes the color value of all the colors. So let's say you have 50% gray on one side and 50% gray on the other side. It adds them both together, gives you 100%, which is like a white color. Basically, the lighter color will show through. Doing color just sends color information, color burning, and color dodging. Go through them. You're going to kind of intuitively know how they work. The big ones you're going to use probably over your videos are going to be add, darken. You're not going to use exclusion. Where is it? Overlay and screen. Those are probably going to be the big ones you use. So as long as you keep those in the back of your head, play around with it, you're going to see exactly how 2 images can be composed to be on each other. Reset that one. Speed change. Now I've actually learned, so if you notice this clip here, if you look down, you'll see a timing window here. In this case, it always starts at 1. I don't know why it starts at 1 hour. It just does. This clip here is a 10-minute long clip. Now, I don't need it for 10 minutes. I need it for, here, first off, we're going to get rid of this. I need this for 10 seconds, 15 at max. So you can either right-click it, change clip speed, and you can either change the frames per second or change the speed until the duration is as quick as you want. So if I want to make it 15 seconds. Pitch correction is an audio thing. By the time you're speeding things up this much, it's not going to matter. So leave it or don't leave it. Freeze frame is another option, but I'll talk about that later. So in this case, you took that entire 10-minute clip, and it's now sped up till it plays in 15 seconds. Depending how long the video is, this can actually kind of send your stuff to a crawl, so try not to worry about it too much. But this is actually going to be very important for a filming thing, and I'll show you that as we edit the video. So yay, back to normal. Another thing you can do, so let's say, where did I put it before? Right as the sun pops up. I think it's right there. No, it's right here. So right there. Now, instead of the sun going up, I want this to be a freeze frame here. So again, you go back to your clip speed. You select freeze frame. And what it does is it cuts the video right there and makes a freeze frame of it throughout the rest of the length of the clip. You can extend this as far or as short as you want to. Yay! Okay, so back to where we were. So I actually didn't notice this here, but you can have the speed changes also inside of this window. Increase the speed, increase the frames per second. I don't know what ripple timeline means. You don't really need it. You can make it go forwards or backwards. That's the other thing too. So from the clip speed window, you have reverse speed, which will have it play backwards. On this window, you just select reverse and then pick it as well. Doesn't really matter. So you can have this go forwards or backwards. In this case, we want this to be a 15-second clip, so we're just going to increase it until it's about 15 seconds. It's never going to be quite exact, so you might have to do some small cutting. Oh, wait, that's still not, that's not even close. That's 3 minutes. I don't want 3 minutes. I want 15 seconds. All right. So that's the easy part. That's showing you the bare bones basics of the window. The last part is audio and effects. So when you click on an audio channel, you're going to get the same thing here for audio. Ignore all of this. You're not going to need it, and by the time you need it, you're going to have to look it up and do some research on your own. The thing you want is volume. That's it. You're going to need this for what they call ducking. So for example, if you're speaking on one channel and you have audio on the other channel, you want the audio to get, or you want the audio to go through clear and not the background music. So you're going to want to make the music channel go quieter. There's a bunch of different ways to do what's called ducking. The easiest way I do it here is just do it from this window. Now, when you're making audio, there is, oh, let's put that back here, mixer. You see the audio here? 0 decibels is where audio starts to clip. And you know that clipping sound when audio is too loud and it blows out the speakers? That's what that is. At -10 is about as loud as you can get before it starts getting into the red zone. Well-mixed audio will never go past this level, but sometimes it does. Generally speaking, though, if you want background music that's not blasting your ears and totally out of whack, set your volume to -10. If you're having music going on while there's no speaking, it's the best volume for it. When you want to have somebody speaking over top of it, depending on how loud the music is, you're either going to want -30 or -40. So what you can do is, let's say, right here is where I start talking. You want to create a volume marker. Now, there's no specific reason why I do it this way as opposed to any other way. I use the right key, like right and left, to go right five spaces. It gives you 5/24 of a second. Create a second one and make that my sound duck. So the first one is audio. So what'll happen is you'll get to this spot, and then it gets really quiet here, and then when you want to return, create another one, change it again, -10. Right there, you have your audio ducking. I'll show you another trick on this one too. So let's say you like how this is set up. Maybe it's set it here. Hypothetical. Your first 10 seconds are talking, and then I'm just ballparky here. And then you want straight music for the rest of the tune. And let's say you have 5 different tracks to do this. We need our media pool again. Let's grab this one. This actually comes in handy for my mids watches because for the first 5 seconds, I have a louder tune playing while it shows you the name of the song, and then it gets quiet for talking. I'm just doing it in reverse here. I like this effect, and I want this specific track to have that exact same effect. Click on your option, Control-C for copy, and then Alt-V, or I think Apple-V for Apple people. And what this does is it pastes the attributes. In this case, you want to paste the audio attributes. And if you notice, It sets it up the exact same way. First 5 seconds, quiet. Or I guess 10 seconds I had. And then, at the 10-second mark, it starts to climb back up to the -10. Wow! You can do that with video as well, by the way. Everything. Effects, opacity, any option. If you want to copy the effect from one to the other, and this is going to be good and useful. So for example, if you have to film and you want to have a bunch of zooms in, some zoom outs, some clips, some whatever, and you like the format and you just want to apply it to other videos, that's probably going to be one of your best options for it. So I think that's it. Oh, the last part, and this is an option. It's going to depend on what option you select. So when you go through your effects menu, in this case, I'm using Prism Blur again. And I want to make every option of special effect you're going to use has some changes. And this is where this comes in. Again, they have the same options. You can have it increase over time, decrease over time. Most of the options are intuitive as long as you just drag them around and play. It doesn't really matter. You can screw it up as much as you want. Just click there and a reset. The trash can will delete the filter out of the thing. If you just want to turn it off to see what it looks like without, you do it this way. If you have more than one filter at a time, so in this case, Prism Blur and Camera Shake, and let's say I want it to apply the Camera Shake before the Prism Blur, that's what these arrows are for. Again, this is probably going to be outside of the scope of what you need, but it's there when you need it. So what do we got for options? Well, okay, we got the aberration distance, we got the strength, a vignette, sharpness. Cool. The one option that they all have is something called global blend. So once you set this the way you want it, maybe you only want it at half strength. That's where global blend is going to come into play. So something to be aware of. I think, do I want to talk about the other part? Yeah, we're going to talk about edits now. So we're going to put together a video. Let me just quickly go into chat and see how you guys are doing. I know, apologies, I've been ignoring you, but this is actually a lot to go over, and I don't want this thing to be 6 hours long, so. Next part on it is you want to make your video. So there's a bunch of different ways to do this. Everybody has their own technique and workflow. I'm going to show you mine, and if it works for you, that's great. So I'm going to put together, let's just do this. Dun, dun, dun. Same options as you would clicking and dragging over anything. We're going to make a cup of coffee in the morning. And I suppose I could have just clicked and dragged, but whatever, we're doing it this way. I like this because then I'll know I've dealt with every clip that I wanted to deal with by the time it gets here. Oh, damn it. I know there was an option for that too. I wish I could remember where the option was. On my videos, I have it set, and now it's like solidified in that option. Don't remember where it is now. Doesn't matter. So here, let's start with something simple. I want to take this scene, and I want to provide an edit to it, a cut it, a transition. A cut is the lie, by the way. It's a good way to think about this. This is going to be more just cinematography. You may not need all these tools, but they're going to be there. A cut is a lie. You are telling somebody to go from this perspective to this perspective. There is a few different cuts, and I'm going to try and give you examples of each one. The first one is cutting on action. A good way to think of cutting on action, let me see if I can give a good example here. Let me go through my clips. Here we go. Let me try. Oh, here we go. Do I have a boil? Oh, I do have a boil. Okay, good. Drag it here. So if you want to cut on action, get out of here. You are going to make, for example, on this one, I turned the dial to turn on the stove. And then once that turns on, that's the action. And then from this side, it's going to be, you're going to see a light turn on in a second here. There it is. You see the light? So that's the action. So in this case, I use left and right on your keyboard. I wanted to get it, see there, just about a frame before. You're going to create a cut, go back to A, select it and delete. You go to this one, and then just as that turns on, plus a few frames. There we go. So it goes on. We're going to give you about 5-6 frames difference in there. Again, make a cut, delete the outside, put them together. This is what's called a cut on action. The reason you do this is because your brain needs time to process between two different visual images. So when you cut on action, it helps it out by giving it that continuity. Good examples you see in movies, if somebody is throwing a punch and then the shot changes to a wider shot and then you see the punch connect, your brain has an easier time making that connection than if it was two completely different things. So when you go to preview this, you look at it. Okay, so the little blue light, I mean, it's not the greatest example, but it's the example we have here. Lets you know about that one. That's cutting on action. Oh, I need to do a timestamp for these things. Where is my chummy? There she is. Jesus, we're already 45 minutes in. All right, 43 minutes. Cuts. We might have to go a little bit quicker through these ones just because of how much time it's going to take. The next thing is called a cutaway. So a cutaway is when you want to show something else that you want somebody to focus on that's different. A good example is like Family Guy. Remember when they talk about something and then they show a sketch that has nothing to do with the scene? That's a cutaway. So for example, maybe this one, I'm making coffee and then outside is like nice and peaceful and the morning's happening. And so it cuts away to that quickly. Oh, wow, you see the stadium. Everybody's having fun. Great. That is a cutaway. Next one is a crosscut. And that is two things that are happening in parallel time converging together. So if I want to show... Actually, I don't think I have an example in this footage, but yeah, think of it like I'm walking towards the door because I'm going to go inside and murder everybody. And the people inside the door know I'm coming and they're trying to escape and whatever. If you keep cutting between the two of them, it creates a tension. Or Star Wars, the Death Star scene, the spaceship scene, the other scene. It allows you to show multiple parallel timelines. The reason you're going to need to know these things, by the way, is because if you want to be lazy and just do one-shot takes, that's fine. But it's good to know that these options are available because the way you edit things will change how your audience perceives them. And I'm going to show you an example at the end when we put this together. So be aware of them, but you don't think you always have to use them. Like, for example, for mids watches, I use at most two different types of edit, two different types of cuts. So we've already done cutaways on action, or cutaways, cutting on action, and cross cuts. The next one is a jump cut. A jump cut is probably the one you're most familiar with seeing online. That is when you have a single long shot. So for example, let's take this one. Grinding coffee, and it zooms out to show the thing here. All you have to do for those is just cut a piece of footage and you'll show the passage of time. Oh, for crying out loud. Let me zoom back in here. So you see me starting the blend. Yay. And then automatically the bend is finished. We're moving off. That's a jump cut. If you notice, it's kind of jarring. It's more jarring than, say, a cut on action. But because it's still the same scene, your brain is still able to process the continuity quicker than otherwise. Now, I'm not going to get into technical details about like how much quicker, how much this. You can usually kind of feel it. Like when you're watching yourself, you can see if things feel awkward or not, and it needs to vibe with your own perception of the event, and the audience will perceive it as well. So that's great. Next is a match cut. So a match cut, I don't think I have an example on here, but that's something where you're doing a jump from two, or not a jump, but a cut between two separate things, but there's something similar about it. So, for example, if I wanted to film... Actually, I must have something here. No, I really don't. I guess you know what? I could probably do this. So we have this cut where there's the one dog sitting there doing his thing, waiting for me to give him stuff. If I automatically make a cut to the second dog doing it, it's a completely different shot, completely different area, but the fact that the dog is centered in both of the photos will make it a match cut. Makes your brain easier to process, again, even though there's two different pieces of things. Kind of neat. The next thing you're going to want to know, now these are the important ones, because these are probably going to matter to you more than anything. They are transitions. You have a fade in and a fade out. Now the way to do that in the software, there is a little tab at the top left of every screen you get here. As you click and drag it, you can make a fade. In this case, I'm going to make a 5-second fade. Goes from black, fades in. That's a fade in. A fade out, exactly the opposite. Fades out to black. Those are good in a storytelling perspective because they say this is the end of this scene or this thought, and something new is starting right now. It's good to know. The next one is called a dissolve. Now, in the case of a dissolve, there's going to be a trick to it. Actually, you know what? Before we go there, I'll show you a second way you can do that too. So if you want to do it again, do you remember this opacity option we had before on our composite window? Notice if you drag it to 0, it's black. Create a marker there. And let's say you want it to be just that long. Create another marker. Give it full opacity. In this case, you can set up a fade that way as well. So we're going to reset that. It's good to know because then if you want to create the exact same fade on all your shots, you do that same trick I showed you before. Control V to select something, Alt V to paste something, and all you do is you copy the video attributes to it. I think in this one there's a specific option for composite. There it is, composition mode. So you want to make sure that's selected at least. But I mean, more often than not, you can just select it all, doesn't matter. So for a fade, or a dissolve, sorry, instead of going to black, you're filming from one thing to another thing. Now, do you remember before when I told you to make 5 seconds of footage before a scene and 5 seconds after when you're talking into the camera? This is why. Because that part is going to be used to create a dissolve. So in this case, we're going to take this, make these a lot shorter, clip them together, and you're going to want to go to, where do they put it in this one? Effects. Video transitions. And there you have the different types of dissolves. There's an additive dissolve, where like one's added to the other one, blur dissolve, cross dissolve. Play with them, see which ones you like. I like cross dissolve. It gets the best point across. Actually, you know what? I got to zoom in for this part. There's 3 ways to add it. You can either have the dissolve in the center of where the cut is. You can have it only on the previous footage or on the after footage. In this case, I'm leaving it in the middle. Once you click on it, you see that little icon you get? You're going to be able to specify how long the dissolve is. In this case, I find 0.25 is fine, or 0.3. They got the alignment, again, to the right, to the left, or in the middle. Doesn't really matter. I don't fiddle with the options. You don't need to. So now what happens is you go from one shot, a dissolve, into the second shot. This works for giving the impression of a passage of time, for example. Passage of time, it's something that's continuous. If you want to really look at the difference between fades and dissolves, think of the reason between a comma and a period in a piece of writing. Same thing for dissolves and fades. Same thing, if you select it and delete that and get it out of there. Where am I leaving off here? Ah, yeah, smash cut. So this is the one you gotta, like, this is the easiest one to do, but it's the hardest one to do well. A smash cut is just that. One shot, second shot. Nothing to do with each other. There's actually a reason you want to do this. It's because you want to jar the person. So for example, if you have a nice calming, sunrise in Toronto look there, and then you want to have something like jump out at you and get your attention and force your brain to readapt, it actually is like hitting the reset button. And so like, oh, that's nice, calm, and then just all of a sudden, bam, you can put a loud noise on there. It's like a waking up, a slap in the face, cold thing of water. There's a reason you want to do that. Most people, if they don't know how to edit, all of their edits look like that, and that's why your video looks like a piece of crap. The next one is an iris cut. Now, these are stylistic. You probably won't need them, but they have them down below. So let's use an example here. Let's use the diamond, whatever. In the same way that that's the other thing to remember. If it doesn't let you do that, that's because there's no extra frames in a piece of footage to do it. Oh, come on, sir. Get me in there. There we go. And there you go. There's a stylistic choice. You'll know if you want to use them or not. It's a personal choice. You do it if you want. The next thing are wipes. Now, you might recognize wipes from like Star Wars. Used to love them. I'll use an easy one. I guess a push wipe. Look familiar? And there's hundreds of different types of wipes just looking at. Oh, wait, where's the star wipe? I always like that. You remember The Simpsons where Homer, not everything can be a star wipe. He's like, whatever. Shut up, family. And yeah, when he was making that Flanders video, everything was a star wipe. So there you go. You too can make your own Ned Flanders pickup video. Dun, dun. So that's wipes. I would suggest, no, the difference between an iris and a wipe, I like the iris. I mean, it's a stylistic thing. It kind of gives like a old school video look to your thing. At the same time, wipes, it's almost more of like a comic effect, like a comic book type thing. It's hard to explain, but you get a vibe for it anyways. A lot of this stuff you really have to kind of intuit. And if you don't have the intuition for it, just stick to the basics. The next three are invisible cuts, whip pans, and J cuts and L cuts. Now, I don't know if you're going to need these because it's kind of sophisticated stuff, but I'll put it in for good measure. I don't have a video for it, but an invisible cut is one where you hide the cut. So, for example, if I'm filming something and then the camera... Oh, actually, this might be an example. Oh, I don't have one. There it is. Okay, so if I was filming this where I want to make... Actually, here, we'll just do this. And we'll make you reverse. So in this case, I want to make it look like I'm screwing a cup of my coffee and then I'm taking it away, but then we're going to add another one. Oh, for crying out loud. And that's where you get your effect. So that one goes away. There's the cut. You can't see it because it's invisible. But it looks like I took that coffee away. I brought that coffee back. It's a neat option. It's one that's available to you, especially if you're like, okay, I got to go to the bathroom. And then you exit out of the frame and then you come back into the frame. You can basically just splice that entire spacer out and it looks like you just bobbed your head in and out and it works perfectly. Whip pan are where you take the movement of the camera to hide your shot. I don't have an example of this, but it's essentially, yeah, just think whenever you see the camera move really quick to the left or right, you can actually hide an edit in there if that's the kind of thing you need. And then the last one, this one actually might be useful for the basic beginner. It's called an L cut or a J cut. What they mean is the audio cuts before or after the video. I'm going to use, do I have the, oh, I don't have the track in here. Let me grab. So let's say the coffee has that soundtrack that goes into it. I make it a little bit shorter. I connect it to here, but the audio for the coffee is still here. So you don't blow your ears out. Let's put it at -20. So you're watching this, then all of a sudden you hear the song. Oh, I know that song. That's the song that my coffee pot makes, right? Wow. And then as the edit comes in, it's a way of smoothing out the rough edges on a jump cut. In this case, I probably should have had the sound of a tea kettle whistling. But if you had a tea kettle whistling and then it comes in here, that's an L cut. A J cut works the exact opposite. Oh. A J cut is... Let's say that's the soundtrack for the landscape. As you make the edit, the audio sticks around a little bit longer, an extra beat. That would be a J cut. Now, there's a bunch of reasons you'd want to use one or the other. The big one is you want to add more continuity between the scene or just to imply a connection between two things. So in this case, maybe it's the serenity of watching the sunrise. The idea is you're sitting there watching the sunrise while you're making yourself a pot of coffee, right? So when you put the L cut and the J cut like that, you're using audio to help the person draw the connection in their brain. And that's why they say editing is lying. You're literally telling the person what to see, what to think, and what to feel on something. If you ever wonder why you always cry at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, it's because they put on really sad music and they make everybody cry and it manipulates the hell out of you and you're like, you son of bitches. So that's going to be everything you need to know about cuts and transitions. I will suggest at the end of this, if you don't know what to do, I would strongly suggest just go with a very quick 2 or 3 frame dissolve. It's going to be smoother than a jump cut. It'll make things look somewhat continuous. And if it's so different that it just jars you, just stick to a dissolve. Just fade to black, fade back, or sorry, a fade to black, fade back in. You only have to do maybe 5 frames. Now, by the way, I'm speaking as if I'm doing 24 frames a second. That's going to be the end at rendering. We're going to be talking about that stuff. So don't worry about that for now. Okay, so that is the editing. Okay. Next up, how you guys doing? You holding up so far? All this editing, you haven't edited anything yet. Yeah, I'm getting to that. In fact, I'm kind of getting there now. So let's just put together a quick film. In this case, we're going to have 15. Actually, no, that's like 25 seconds. That's way too slow or way too fast. Let's go back here. Why is that giving me that weird one? All right, let's revert this to normal. Cute. So we are going to make this into a 15-second. Actually, let's do 5 seconds. Let's just make it quick. Or 10 seconds. What the hell? You can tell once you get to this level of speed, it gets a little bit squirrely. But that's fine. Okay, so about 5 seconds, give or take. Drag it in there. Put at the 5 second mark. Then from here, what's the next stop? I don't know. Let's turn on the sync. Sun's coming up. That's great. We'll do a dissolve because we want to show that it's like passage of time. Another thing you do, so it's a side effect here from the example. When you're filming things, you'll notice your hands are jittery sometimes, things shake around a lot. A good trick to do is you record something at as fast a speed as possible. In this case, let me see if I can see. See how slow this is? There's a reason you want to do that, and I'm doing it at 5 times the speed. I think 120 frames a second. So when I speed this back up, you get a very smooth startup. It's a little fast, but whatever. What I want to do is, again, we are going to do a cross dissolve. I'm putting it at the end because I want that 5 full seconds to be there. We're going to make it a 0.3 second cross dissolve. Wow, breakfast is coming. It's peaceful. Turn on the sync. We're going to be using a lot of cross dissolves because I'm going to get really lazy on this because I just want to get it started. And let's find... There we go, boil. So you can show as many or as few details as you want. The idea is things that you leave out are on purpose because they're not important. If I want to show you filling up, I'm just starting the sync. You just want to see me doing a process, right? I don't need you to, well, you didn't show me filling up the thing. Like, that's fine. You're allowed to hide as many details as you want. For crying out loud, just give me my damn thing. So we go from filling up the sync. As you can see there, I have it where it turns the sync off. So we're going to go right to there. Make an edit there. Let's get rid of you. I don't think we need that. Then we have the pot. We're going to start just before. There you go. Steam just starts to come out of it. And then grab it and take it off. And then right. Small thing for me, I like leaving a frame before it leaves the frame. So that way you can get a cut on action. So you see, we started with a dissolve here. And then from this, we went to a jump cut. And then from a jump cut, we're going to go to a... Ooh, actually, you know what? Here, let's do another example. So we're going to stop just there. And we're going to do a cut on action. Or not the cut on action. What do they call it? Cutaway. This is a cutaway. So as you can see, we're seeing it like here. It's just starting to steam. And then we're going to cut to here. just for like a second. Nothing much. And the idea with that cutaway is it shows you like a close-up on it. Wow. Carry on with what we're doing. And then let's start another. Let's do it as it's already going. Again, I sped this one up 5 times, so you get a lot of a smoother shot. So there, another jump cut, which, I don't know. If I were to make this one, would I do it as a jump cut? It's kind of jarring. I probably wouldn't. But at the same time, what are your options here? So how do I want this to transition? The idea is you're pulling that over. I want it to be done in parallel. So I want it to be, if you remember, I called it a cross cut. So in this case, it's going to be a cross cut. A good way to smooth over this transition to make it look less like a jump cut and more like a cross cut is if I had audio of the grinding, I would probably add a little bit of a J cut here for the grinding. Maybe start it right about there. So there, I got my marker to let it know. And then just as it stops, we'll set that up with a small fade. We don't need you. And then we have... I'm going to skip bean pour. I just want something nice and easy. Actually, you know what we'll do here? Since we did a fade there, we're going to add a little side plot to this, where the dogs are watching me get ready and they want to eat. He just wants to eat. Now, we'll edit this. Oops. So dog 1, dog 2. He walks off frame, so we'll cut it right there. In fact, we can cut this short too. When in doubt, make it shorter. So the idea is it's sunset, or it's like 6 in the morning, the sun's just come up, we're making ourselves some coffee, the dogs are up and they want some treats. So what the hey, you take a break from making your coffee, you make them some treats. You notice I didn't say a word. It all saying this through the, that's where I throw him a treat and he goes to eat. So we'll cut this and get rid of that. There we go. We'll throw another fade in there because we're going back. Next step is, oh yeah, my George Bruno scene. If you guys don't know, there's this goofball named George Bruno. Pretty funny. He always stirs his coffee with a stick, but I'm like, I like stirring, so I'm like, I'll just make fun of it, whatever. So the idea is you pour, and by this time you've poured your coffee into the thing. Actually, I probably should add a scene for that for some continuity. Again, these things are mostly personal choices. Again, because it's a sped up scene. Give the coffee a stir. Place the lid down. And I'm going to do another cut on action here. So there's, if you've noticed, there was a fairly lengthy section here between before I put the lid on and when I stop stirring, right? So I'm going to hide an edit in here because people get bored really easy. And that's like 4 seconds that they don't need. But if you do that, it looks weird. So what I find you can do here is take a small cross dissolve, make it 2 frames, and all of a sudden now it looks like it's an invisible mix. Like it's almost unnoticeable. There's a lot of places you can do that. Really tighten up your videos. I know a lot of people say you need to have a certain length of video, and if that's the case, make more effing content, man. If there's dead zones in here, like quiet points of conversation, and I know this live stream I've had a few, but they're live streams, you get what you get in live TV. If there's dead zones, you're going to find that people's mind tends to wander very quickly. So if you can crop it up, tighten it up, it makes a much better experience. And yes, this is the kind of thing that nobody's even going to notice, but it makes a difference. It's all these little things put together that make the difference between an amateurish YouTube video and a less than amateurish YouTube video. So here, what are we going to do here? All right, so you see how the plunger's coming down on this one? So we're going to do the cut on action. It's going to be a passage of time thing because obviously you have to wait like 6 to 7 minutes in between then, but we're just going to cut straight to it. So the idea is as soon as that touches down, bam, put it in there. Actually, you know what? I don't like that. That is jarring. So what we might do is we're going to expand this to kind of match that. So we do our zooms. There we go. A little bit bigger. And then make this one bigger to match. And again, hide the edit in a 2-frame cross dissolve. It'll be less noticeable. Now you tell me from looking at the previous thing to looking at this one, which one is smoother and easier on the eyes. It still looks a little bit jarring, so if you were filming that, I would probably suggest doing it differently. Also, this needs to be a little bit faster. And we're going to do a final cut on action right there for this part. So it's as we lifted it. So we are going to... Oh, for crying out loud. Just as we lift it. Where is the lift? There. We'll use it right about there. Put it in there. And now you have a cut on action. Oops. Where is it? Now you have a cut on action. Makes it more seamless. You pour your thing. Grab your coffee. And we'll stop right there. Bam, the video's done. But you're looking through there now, you're like, oh, you know what? I have an idea. Let's do a little bit of a montage at the front. Select all the stuff beforehand, move it out. There is 2 shots of like Toronto doing its thing. We don't want any running on there. Let's just get it without the running. Stop right there. And then get this one. And then this one. The idea is I'm going to do some like fanfare the common man type shit here. Something to keep in mind. So when you cut or copy and then paste things, it will automatically go into the same channel that you're editing from. So if you don't want to replace stuff here, another thing you can do is move it to a second channel, copy it, and then paste it. Oops. The hell was... Oh, get out of there. Copy and then paste it, so you never have to worry about over-edit or editing over top of stuff you already have done. So we match this up, match this down. So the idea here is it's going to be, yeah, you see your wonderful morning, the sun's about to come up. You cut to this. We're going to do a cheap version of a cutaway. So remember before how I talked about making keyframes? We're going to do one here. So we're going to have this, and then we're going to zoom in on that flag. So we're going to make a marker here, and then a 1-frame marker to the right of it, and then we're going to make all of our changes. You want to do that for position and zoom. So there. So now when you watch this, it's going to look like that. Cutaway. The scene. Scene. And then, bam, jump cut to starting up the think, getting the tap done, whatever. You know what? This is going to be good enough. I think this will be good enough to get us where we need to go. So that's the bare bones of editing a video. Now, you can be doing this with talkie head stuff. I might show you guys a mids watch one some other time on a separate video if you want to. Those are going to be a little bit easier. This one I liked because it gave a good broad example of the edits you can do. A mids watch one, I can have that done in like 15 minutes. Next thing you want to do is you want to add your audio. So if you have audio channels, obviously you're going to add to that. I'm just going to do music on this one because I don't really want to fiddle around with it. Let's just pick, I don't know, what song is this one? No, let's try sunset. That works for me. Remember what I told you before? -10 if you're going to be having on a video. See, now it gives you a nice vibe to it, right? That you wouldn't have gotten otherwise, even if there's talking on top of it. More calming, more morning. Who doesn't like that, right? Another thing you can also do, let's use a different example. Automatically changes the entire theme of your video just by changing it to like some jazzy tune, right? Let's skip past a little further ahead. And if you're one of those guys who films vlogs, this is how you're doing your transition between scenes in a vlog with a couple, 3 or 4 cutaways like this, then your video and say, welcome, it's Casey Neistat, making coffee, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. On mine, I'm going to keep to the Sunset Drive one. Now, the last part I'm going to show you here is text and special effects. Sweet Jesus. What are we at here? 116. Okie dokie. So for text, there's a couple ways to do it, and I'm going to just kind of briefly go over all of them. I'm not going to go too in depth on this because it's a pain in the ass to go through all the details. But you go to your effects, and there it is, titles. Of all these options, you only need 2. There's text and there's text plus. Text is simple. I just want to have words on a screen and I want them to display something. Text plus is I want words on a screen and I want to be able to fiddle around with it. If you don't want to fiddle around with it, if you just want text, show up, disappear, fine, done. So we'll call this making coffee live. Now, most people just do a simple whatever, and it looks boring and ridiculous. So from a typography standpoint, I'm going to teach you a little bit about typefaces. There is 2 general categories of typefaces. The first one is serif, which has the edges on the edge of the letters. And the next one is a sans serif, which is, let me see if I can grab one. There it is, sans serif. Sans serif looks more modern. Serif looks more classical. If you have a lot of text that people have to read, you technically go with a serif font, otherwise not sans serif. Look, unless you have a particular typeface that you like or find specifically looks like you're supposed to have, I'm going to strongly suggest you find and you get a typeface called Helvetica, because that's just it. Everything you need is Helvetica. It's like the classic font, works with everything. Make the font size whatever you want to. So there's going to be tracking and line spacing. Realize that tracking is the space in between characters. And line spacing, there's a second E. Line spacing is the space between lines. The rule of thumb is the bigger your text is, the more you want to tighten up the tracking and the line spacing. If it's smaller, you might need to add more. Just make it easy on the eyes to read. Left justified, center justified, right justified. For video, you're mostly going to be doing display stuff, so it doesn't truly matter. Same thing as your positioning. The one thing, if you really want to go, okay, here. If you want to go full hipster, here's what you do. Let me just let me set this stuff all back. If you want to go full hipster, make it the entire length of your thing. Tighten those lines right up. There we go. And just fill the frame. What you can also do, they have other options here. I guess I should show you these quickly. Stroke, easy enough. Make a stroke. So if you want to do that, sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. I try not to unless you have to. You can change the color here. Drop shadow, same thing. Add yourself a drop shadow if you want to. It's somewhat more useful, but you really don't need much. Like, less is more. Add more blur, take blur away, whatever. We're going to disable that. Background, again, same thing. You can make a text background. So if you have a very noisy background and it's hard to read your text, sometimes what you do is add a background. Give it a width, give it a height for the box, give it an outline if you want to. Here's one thing I always like doing. If you ever want to make it look like a Final Fantasy game, just make a blue border, a white outline, nice and thick. Make it wider, make it taller. And voila. Change your opacity as much or as little as you want. I'm going to skip that because we don't need that here. Settings is where you just go back to your video settings for this. So again, here's some funny things you can do too. So it's little things to think about. You can make your font as big or as small as you want to. But let's say you want it to make it look like it's all beat up. Here's a trick you can do. Make it very small. Let's say 20. And then go into your settings and zoom it right out. Let's change that angle. See now how it looks all like pixelated and kind of weird? It's a little trick you can do. It's one of those things to be aware of. Same thing with the cropping. So if you wanted to do just a simple transition, you could easily do that. So now, wow. But you see what I mean? Just setting up these markers, changing your cropping, changing your zoom, changing your composites, changing the opacity. You see that? You change it to like a simple add with a touch of opacity to it. Will make it blend into the background a little more and look less like text on there. Same thing with the color dodging. You're actually dodging all the colors in there. Exclusion can make it look like the opposite, but you're never going to use that. Overlay is another one. You can see here it just brightens the section there, so it's like, it's more subtle, right? Already looks way better. But this is all up to you. There's some Fusion 3D stuff. You can play with that if you want to. I don't bother. So let's say you got your video. You got it about where you want it. The next step is going to be special effects. Now, I am going to very, very briefly touch this because it is not worth all the hassle. So let's say we're going to make another section right there. Doggo's eating. Go to your Fusion tab. If you want to know how to make a top-tier Hollywood brand special effects film, it's all in here. There is so much to this. There is a college degree worth of information in here. Don't worry about it. Don't touch it. Don't care. Just know it's all set up here in this little workflow window. So here's your video. That's the video of the dog. And here's the output. It goes to this. This is what goes actually onto your video. I'm just going to show you an example of the things you can do here. So let's take... how do we do this? Not text 3D. I wanted... where's the word for it? Somewhere in here, I'm going to add some text, and I'm going to make it track. Miscellaneous. Stylize, warp. Oh, there it is. Generator text plus. You create a text window. So we are going to add that to our media out. Media in here goes to here. Oops. Oh, no, wait, it doesn't do it that way. That's right. So we have to meld these together. It's been a while. Let me remember. Is it like this? Oh, merge. There we go. That's what I wanted. So we're going to take the text. We are going to take the median. We're going to merge them together into media out. Yay! I wouldn't even worry about this, but I'm showing it to you for the sake of completeness. Doggo dinner time. So inside of that text, we have Doggo dinner time. We're going to go back to Helvetica we had before. Helvetica new. We'll go with, what did I have before? 63, I think it was. Medium extended. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Oh, there we go. Now, why aren't we getting... Oh. Doggo dinner time. Yay! We'll crop those in nice and tight. Track those in a little bit longer. We're going to right justify it, and we are going to move it Where's the options for moving? I can't remember. Oh, you just move it. All right, good enough. And here's the neat thing you can do with this, right? So let's say you want to transform this. You can just go into here and create options for transforming. In this case, you got your rotating options. You can make it do it not by character, but by word, or by the entire line. You can have it shear, change the size, all kinds of things. It's very neat. This one here is the option I like. It's the, oh, not rotation. No, that's not what I want. Actually, I want to transform. Oh, this is going to be, yeah, you know what? Just watch and see the kind of neat things you can do with this. I'm not going to try and explain everything here. So you go to your Resolve FX transform. We'll do a transformation. So we're going to have the text go into a transform. Then it's going to merge. Oh, for crying out loud. Then it's going to merge. There we go. So what transform do we want to do? Hey, where'd my text go, sir? And the transform, we're just going to change its pitch. Don't hide my doggo, son of a bitch. Oh, you're screwing me over. All right, let's just make this easy. We're going for. So doggo dinner time. We'll do a transform inside of this one. There's a bunch of different ways to transform. So let's say we just do it, start from here. If you notice too, there's little yellow lines here. This is the length of the text. So we're going to have it go to about halfway, and then come up and slightly popped. And then we're going to have it go a little bit further. And we're going to change it to, where is the zoom? Not that one. There we go, and have it go up. So, go back to this one. And then we're going to have this one pivot all the way, oh, come on, all the way up and out. Wow. Go back to your edit window. It looks good enough. But that's the point. So like so I could have made this edit of the text inside of this window. Or I can go to the actual video clip and do it from the Fusion selection there. So everywhere that you want to learn to do something, there's 4 different places you can do it. So it's really one of those things that you have to customize and make it your own. And sometimes they're easier to do it this way. Like for me, it's just easier to make it in here. In this one, it's easier to do. It might be easier to do it in here. Doesn't really matter as long as you get it done. Color grading. And after this, we're going to render and we're going to make a. The hell? Oh, there we go. We're still here. Hold up one sec. Did I lose you? My studio just crashed on me. Nope, there we go. We're back. We're back. The hell? Do you guys still see me on here? Or did I lose you? Oh, there we go. You're still here. Okay, so that's just my streaming thing on my end. Well, I don't even know what I'm going to do with this now. All right. That's a weird technical error on YouTube side. All right, don't mind the pause right here. I just need to get the timestamp so we can edit the next part of the video where I do color grading. And then, there we go. We're back. So where did I leave off? 1:30. Color grading is one of those things that's useful. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. It's just useful. So you want to go through all of your videos. Where is... Oh, with multiple, oh, there it is, clips. So if you just see it like this, you want to make sure you have that clip selected. Here is all the clips in your video. And if you'll notice, maybe you want them all to look a certain way. So for example, it's not bad, but I don't like the purple. We're going to do a histogram. No, not a histogram. Where is it? Waveform, that's it. It's color theory. Just realize this shows you how the blues, greens, and reds are separated. Ideally, if it's a plain white picture, this is all going to look like a flat line, but you can see this one has more blue, more purple, less green. In the mid ranges, it's more red. It helps you out when you're doing some editing. So in this case, we are going to make some edits to our color. Where is the window on this one? Nope. Oh, I'm so used to the lift, gamma, gain, offset. Oh, I guess it's in here now. Fair enough. This window right here before the HDR, you're going to have film temperature, which it adds warmth to it. It's hard to explain unless you've known how to do films, but just know it adds warmth or takes warmth away. You've got your tint. As you can see here, you kind of intuitively understand how they edit as you go through. A good rule of thumb for these things is always add a little bit of contrast. So instead of just the 1.0, try 1.1 or 1.2. We'll do 1.2. It usually adds that one little bit of pop to it that makes your film just look that much more impressive. The next one you're going to want is shading and highlights. So shading here, you can tell it either lightens the shadows or darkens them. In our case, we're going to keep it pretty bright. We want a flat tone here. You can turn this down somewhat, and the reason that is good is if you ever wanted to add that Instagram filter where, you know, where they make it look like a Polaroid where your blacks kind of have some red to them, affecting the shading will make that more pronounced. Same thing with light. You can make your lights pop out. In this case, I want them down because I don't want any oversaturated spots. You see that there? Now that's too bright and it's just like a solid thing of white. We're going to bring that down until there is none of that. Saturation. Usually it never hurts to add a little bit of color. I like adding it to 55. Makes everything have a bit of color. Hue is just, again, changing the hue. I wouldn't mess with that. Now, I'm going to change this to, where is the sliders? Is it this one? Not the RGB mixer. Nope. Maybe it is in here. Oh, fair enough. Well, they changed it. Oh, that's right, because now it's wheels. Okay. Lift is if you want to do individual channels. I just want the reds to be brighter at the top. You can change the lift. So in this case, anything that's a highlight will go red. Or green. Or blue. Gamma is compression. It's hard to explain, but like just by playing with it, you'll see. You see how it kind of gives it that red warmth there? Or a green warmth? Gain is like it multiplies it. So it's in the way gamma compresses colors. Gain makes them exponential. Offset just moves the top end and the bottom end together. So in this case, let's say we want this to be more reddish. Maybe a little bit of yellow in there, right? So we do it like so. Great. We're going to pop up the color to 55. That works. Totally different look to it, right? So here's the thing. Now it doesn't fit with this, this, or this. So what we can do is shift select the clips that you want to change. If you want to automatically apply that color grading to these, middle click that. And then you're going to see they automatically have that color grading applied to them. So now all of a sudden everything is that brighter, yellower, warmy warmth color. Sometimes you may need to alter them on their own, doesn't really matter. And this matters for your face too, because sometimes you're going to film in horrible light. Sometimes it's going to make you look washed out, sometimes not. These things can be the difference between life and death. Like here, for the example, the dog. He has a wonderful texture to him. What I'm going to do for him, there's a mid-detail option here. You might recognize that from Instagram. You see that now? You can really emphasize the mottled look on his graying hair, the old pupper. We're going to add a touch of that to it. He's still a little bit desaturated, so we're going to brighten him up to like 55. We're going to darken it just a touch. Bring down the lighting so that way none of his white is blown out. Same thing with this guy. Middle click. So now when you get these shots, he looks more like a dog. All right, actually, you know what? Chomsky's really washed out. We're going to have to... Oh, okay, so that's just a problem with the filming. I just filmed it too overexposed. So that's something you learn. Oh, by the way, Rusty Fuel, I see your $10 super chat at the end. Can you post a list of the basic equipment? Yeah, I'll put them in the description actually. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, the hardware and software you want as well as the cost. I'll put a link to the description of where you can find them on Amazon and that at the end of it. So, and then there, voila, you go through everything. Let's say for here, here's something else you can do that's really neat. As you're doing this, oh no, back to my thing. You want this to go over. Oh. Where is it? Normally it's on your second screen, but I don't have a second screen set up. Was it nodes? Nope. Is it effects? Nope. Are we sure it's not nodes? Maybe it is nodes. All right, somewhere around here there is a button that you can actually set these timelines on, and for the life of me, I cannot remember where I put it. All right, you know what? We'll just do a mask for now. So here's something else you can play around with, masks. Let's say, let's take that piece of footage and let's put it over here underneath. So we have the coffee there and we have the background window, but we don't want to have the actual background window. We want the shot that we had in the very beginning here. So what you do is you create a mask, and that's with this option right here. There's two. There's this one too, but I'm going to do it this way first. All a mask does is it removes that part of this film and puts whatever's underneath it into the frame. So what you want to do here is we're going to create a normal curve. Create a new one. Now this is an example. Right now, it doesn't do anything. What you have to do is right-click on the nodes section, and you want to add alpha output. That's right, sir, alpha. What that means is it actually renders this data on the main timeline. And then what you do is you drag from the blue, which is alpha, to the blue there. Now it's doing it, but you can't see it from here. So there's a shortcut key for this. Or Control-Shift-H. And then Shift-H to switch between the two. As you can see, anything that's inside of this is actually being rendered, and anything not is not being rendered. So we're going to delete this one. Can we? There we go. And we're going to create a new one. So we're going to make a curve. So what parts do we want in this? We're going to draw it out. You can be as exact or as inexact as you want. I don't really care. Scroll with your mouse wheel if you need to zoom out or in. It makes your life so much easier. And just like anything else, you can click and drag and you'll create some curves to it. Be as fancy or as unfancy as you want to be. Ryan, am I really going to need to learn special effects? No. But I have to fill an entire video with everything you need to know. And if somebody had showed this to me 3 years ago, it would have saved me a month of 12-hour days trying to edit a simple, stupid video. So I'm showing it to you now, you ungrateful bastard. So just watch it. All right, you know what? Whatever. We're just going to get lazy on this last little bit here. And connect it at the end. Wow. So now when we film it, now when we view it, it's going to show this. It's as if the window... Oh. Okay. In fairness, we need to have a moving mask. So this is better for still shots, but whatever. The point still stands. Now, those are just video artifacts. Don't worry about them too much. They're not there because of anything other than... the problem with the thing is having to render it in real time. When it actually renders, those go away. So wow, you got your filters, right? Great. But you notice here we have a problem. Well, that sucked because as this thing moves, we have to keep moving this. It turns out you can actually make keyframes to this, and there's a whole art to it. Know it's there. I'm not going to... Oh, there it is. That button right down there. You'll have keyframes. So if I wanted to, let's say, for example, have that set there, corrector, sizing, and let's say I made all this stuff, and then I wanted the thing to move this way. As it plays, the mask will move, right? Yay. That's one way to do things. Obviously, it's not the best, and it does not work in this example. So what you can do instead is... Where's the delete? Delete. Go to the hourglass, or the eyeglass, and you want to create color masks. If you notice, you click on it. Now, everything in that specific shade of red will be in the frame, and everything not in it will be outside of the frame. You want to go to these qualifiers here and a picker add. Click and drag it over top of the coffee cup. It's kind of easy here because we have like a solid color. And then bam, the entire scene. Come on. Why are you missing something? What are you missing? All right, whatever. And now you can have it where your entire scene is masked based on the colors. Again, this is not the best job, but I did not prep any of this. This is kind of where you want a green screen. But now it looks like, oh wow, his view is there. It's like goofy special effect and it shows everything. If you do that properly, it looks great. I've done that actually in a lot of my videos. There's one where I talk about my book, where I'm actually adding some planar tracking to it too. I'm not even going to get into that one. But let's just say you can set up a film shot where it tracks an object in a different video and then follows it around. So basically, you could make your own Star Wars TIE fighter battle. Just do a video of a TIE fighter, green screen it, mask it like this, have it track to a point on the thing, and then you could film yourself going through the Death Star, and it just follows that point and flies along with. It's crazy stuff when you get into it, but it takes a fair bit of work. Probably out of the scope for what you guys are going to be doing here. This is going to be 99% of what you need, plus 10% of things you don't. Next stop. Okay, did I miss anything? Before I finish this off. Text, shading, depth, movement, workflow, music, audio, rendering. Yep, next up is rendering. Okay, so you got your video. It looks the way you want. Let's preview it. Always preview it because you'll always get lost in the work. Now it suggests you preview it at twice speed. So hit Shift L, Shift L. You take a look. Does this look the exact way I wanted it? Yeah. It's exactly how I want it. Perfect. Hey, the dog, doggo dinner time. Put in this thing, pour a cup of coffee, and then it ends. I suppose if I really wanted to go fancy, I'll just do a little fade out and have the music go for another, I don't know, 10 seconds. So now it's done, and we're going to render it. Go to the deliver button while I edit my thing to let me know we're going to the deliver button. 143. Color grading and masks. Rendering. Here's where the magic happens. So when you're rendering your video, you're going to have a window down here at the bottom. Now, you can sometimes have footage you don't plan on rendering for whatever reason. This gray bar shows what you're rendering. In, I, O, out. If I just want to render this, I render that. It's good if you want to make clips or whatever. In this case, I'm going to render the whole thing. You can also delete those at Alt-I and Alt-O, and it gets rid of them, but don't worry about that right now. So I want to render this entire thing, plus maybe, I don't know, 3 seconds. So right about to there. Perfect. You want to give yourself a file name and a location. I don't know, I'll just call mine videos. I'll just put it on the desktop. Oh, I guess you guys can't see this, so I'll just put it on my window. Call it live. For YouTube, they have an option here to upload automatically. I would suggest you don't use that. I do not like it on the workflow. It's missing too many options. Just do it manually. Make your video name, put it in its location. You're going to want to do it as a single clip. You want to make sure you have certain settings for your video and your audio. Now, for your video format, you are going to want to, and the reason this is important, and listen to me very carefully, this is important because the closer you get to YouTube's standard for video editing, the less processing it has to do on its end, and the faster your video can go out. If you just select things willy-nilly, you can sometimes notice your video being stuck in a queue for over 24 hours and sometimes caught indefinitely. So just follow this step. MP4. You want an MP4 container format and the H.264 codec. Not going to get into the details of it. Just know that these formats are standard across YouTube. You want to stick with your native encoder. For your resolution, usually you're going to set this beforehand. I'm going to show you some earlier settings you can do when you're making your videos. 1920 by 1080. There's usually 3 formats you're going to do for your videos. The 720, 1080, or either 1280 by 720, 1980 or 1920 by 1080, or whatever the 4K one is. I don't know. Nobody does that. You can actually do multiple different formats. Like there's a few videos on my channel you've seen where I've done them in IMAX format, which is 2.21. You'll recognize them because they don't have end cards, and you can't put an end card in a unusual format. So realize if you want end cards on your video, you're going to want to make sure it's on one of your standards, your 720 or 1080. Also, for your end cards, now I just did an extra 10 seconds here, right? But there's 2 criteria to be able to put an end card in your video. Your video has to A, be at least 8.5 minutes long, and B, you have to have 22 seconds at the end of the video to put them in. So if I put an end card into this one, it's actually going to go, it'll start right about here. So just be aware when you're creating your creative vision, the last 22 seconds are going to have a bunch of goofy shit on it. So don't select. So make sure you have that selected on there. The next step, the frame rate. Standard frame rates. YouTube will handle 24 frames, 29.9, which is like television broadcast, 30 frames a second, and 60 frames a second. Most of the time for filming, as a stylistic choice, I prefer 24 frames, which is like movie screen, the cinema one. If you're doing video game footage, a lot of people love 60 frames a second. If you want to make it look like a TV show, you can use 30 frames a second. It's at the point where it's really a stylistic choice, but this will affect your bitrate. Don't just leave this as the options, because this is what screws you over. YouTube has options on what kind of bit rates are ideal for its videos. If you are filming, and I only know off the top of my head the 1080p, the 1920 by 1080 HD, you want to restrict that to about 6,000 to 8,000 kilobytes a second. That's it. Any less than that, you're losing quality. Any more than that, YouTube actually throttles the processing and downgrades it, which makes it take longer because they don't want to have all this extra crap going on. Now that's at 24 frames a second, you're going to want it closer to 6,000. If you're going to do 30 frames a second, you want it closer to 8,000. If you're filming in 60 frames a second, you can go as high as 12,000. So be aware. Try to pick one that's closest to you. It saves you a ton of time and you're not losing any quality on it. In this case, it's just a standard 1080p, 24 frames a second. We'll just do 8,000. Don't worry about these things. If you really need to know the keyframes, they want it every 3 seconds on YouTube. So in this case, to be every 90 frames or something like that. Just leave it as automatic. That doesn't make a difference. Don't worry about any of this stuff. You're not doing subtitles or any of that crap. Audio, also important. Leave the settings as they are. It does not matter. One thing you have to remember, where is it? Output track. So maybe you have like multiple tracks of audio on your system and you're going through, you're like, oh wow, maybe I should be doing no. There is a bug with this software and nobody knows about it. And it took me a year to find it, that for some reason, you just leave it at bus 1 audio and everything will render fine. If you have multiple audio tracks and you try to get multiple audio tracks, it'll just screw it up. So don't do it. Then add to your render queue. Right there is your job. There's your job. It's filming this part here with those settings. Now those settings are going to save. So when I'm saying make a template because now you have this file. And if I want to say instead of making a cup of coffee, I'm making a sandwich, use this file, use this settings, replace all the footage with footage that I want to use, and everything still works. It will save you a ton of time. If you ever watch like a Count Dankula video where he's reading the news, all of that stuff is very streamlined. Once it's done, you can do multiple, by the way. So let's say I just want to make a 5-second clip. Change the output to there. So all I want to do is have people see this 5-second clip. And I'm going to put that on as a short, or I'm going to add it to YouTube. That 5-second clip now with the output set right there, just add it again to queue. Now you have the 5-second clip. Oh, I should probably change the name though. Live short. Now we have the full clip, the full video, and the 5-second clip. So you can do this both at once. Select both of them, just render. Now this might chop up a little bit here because it takes a lot of processing. This is where having a good computer makes things faster. I'm going to talk right now about how wonderful Davinci Resolve is. I used to use, I can't remember what the program's name was, Final Cut Pro, something like that, Adobe Premiere. And when you do these, it took me about an hour to 2 hours to render a 20-minute video. I switched to Davinci Resolve, and it turns out that Davinci is much better at utilizing your graphic card to render this stuff. It does it in, like you're seeing this right here. This is what, a 1-minute video? It did it in about a minute. So I can get 10-minute videos, 20-minute videos out in like 15 minutes, unless I use a huge amount of special effects. But it just, the amount of time you save alone by using this software instead of going to somebody else, it's amazing. So now they're done. That's it. Go to your file location, just right-click it, open in file location, and I'm watching it on mine. You give it a last watch if you want to. Holy crap, I made my own video. That's awesome. Now the next part, and this is where I'm going to have to go back to my edit window because I have them in here. Upload, thumbnail, visibility. Go to your YouTube. You want to select, there's a video camera at the top right. Oh, let me do a timestamp for this one. 151. Upload. So you upload the video, you're going to have this window sitting in front of you. Click and drag your videos into there. Edit both of them if you want to, drag them both in. Once they're in, you're going to be taken to this window. And this, whatever the file name of the video is, goes here. Whatever your description is here. You can have these settings in your own YouTube, a thumbnail, playlists. This is why I don't like using the Davinci internal YouTube upload settings, because this stuff, it doesn't play well with this at all. Give yourself a good title. Give yourself a good description, give yourself a thumbnail, and add it to a playlist. If you get nothing else done, get those things done. And I will say there's a couple things to know about the uploads. Your thumbnail and your title are all that matters. Don't worry about tags. Don't worry about how good your description is. Nobody reads that shit. It doesn't help you on the algorithm. It's a waste of time to do it. Generally speaking, what you want to do on your description is put links in there. Links to things that people want to click. Hey, if you want to read more about this, go here. Here's my book. Here's the blog. Here's Carl's stuff from Gendernomics. Read whatever you want. The title is important. Make it clickbaity. Make it good. The thumbnail, same thing. If you don't have any good thumbnail making skills, and the funny thing, nobody tells me about this. Do you know you can make your thumbnails in Davinci Resolve too? I'll show you quickly when we're done here, but you can actually like make a thumbnail out of here. Actually, the thumbnail for this video, I made it in Davinci Resolve, and I'll show you the clip of it quickly, or I'll show you quickly how to do it. If you don't want to do that, what you do is you just go, and what happens is this will be populated with 3 random thumbnails from the video itself. It just takes 3 keyframes and decides which one's best. YouTube tries to pick ones that have a smile and open mouth and shit like that. Put your own thumbnail on it, unless you're lazy. You want to add it to a playlist because when you're on YouTube, your video gets about 3 days to make or break. And unless you're PewDiePie, your video is going to break. It's not going to make. Let's throw some titties in there. I don't even know. It won't work. So if you add it to a playlist, what happens is, let's say, I don't know, Chick Talks. I have a bunch of Chick Talks. You watch one, you're like, oh, this is funny. In the end card, you have a playlist for Chick Talks. So now he can watch more. You will get, I'd have to check my stats to be sure, but I know it's at least, out of all the views you get on your channel, about 50% of them are going to be recommendations from YouTube, and about 50% of what's remaining are from subscribers that just come to your channel to see what's new. The remainder of those are usually coming there through playlists or direct searches. So it's a good 25% of the things you view. So it's good to have. The final part is you're going to get to this. There's going to be an ad suitability thing. Just try to be honest with it, because the more accurate you assess your videos for like swearing or nudity and all that stuff, the more it trusts you and the less that you have to go through the manual review process, which is a pain in the ass. So don't swear in the first 30 seconds. Don't put titties in there. Don't talk about drugs. Don't drink. And you're usually fine. Then You go through the video elements. That's where you add your end cards and that. It's intuitive. I'm not going to show you how to do that. The next part is your visibility and publish settings. I will strongly suggest, especially when you're first starting out, leave your videos on unlisted when they're done, because the automatic checks that YouTube does to find out if it's ad friendly or not usually happen within the first 45 minutes after a video is published. So you're giving it that amount of time to do its checks before you publicly release it, because if you release it and it gets quashed in the algorithm, it's dead before it even comes up. So you're better off just taking your time. Then there's options. I mean, you can do members only, which I guess you could do. Private, if you're going to do private, like, why'd you even upload it? Whatever. And then public is when you finally want it to show. Schedule, you can always schedule these things too. Like my mids watchers are already scheduled for the next 2-3 weeks for a set time, set place. That's great. It's good to do that too, especially if you're doing a lot of videos, so you can just put them out and you can constantly keep ahead of the game. And then just save your options, and it'll automatically do. Yay, checks complete, no issues found. Welcome to your video. What's up, Torsha? How you doing? All right, and I think that was about it. Let me just double check my notes to see if there's anything I missed. Fusion Tap Alpha Channel. Yeah, no, that's basically everything you need to know from start to finish about how to make a professional quality YouTube video with professional quality equipment with as much professionalism as one possibly can, doing it as a hobbyist. We're going to go back to, where's my normal screen? Playing in chat. Oh, I don't have your guys' chat in here, so we're going to get you guys back in the channel. And I'll end off with some chit chat with you guys in here. And one of you guys was asking before about a list of the equipment. So I saw your super chat. Let me get through all the super chats to make sure I didn't miss any, by the way. All right, so I got Rusty's. Oh, okay, we're good. We're good. Okay, so the equipment you're going to need. Oh, did I put the... Okay, I did. The equipment you're going to want, let me just look them up quickly so I can get you guys links for them. Apparently, you can't even do the Google searches, so I got you. Mocos 4K. Here is the camera you're looking for. Oh, don't get it through Amazon. Just get it directly through Mocos. This one is the Mocos camera. 4K, 30 frames per second USB camera. USB-C. It's got the telephoto lens. Absolutely fascinating. Next one is SM57 microphone. And that's from Shure. Do they sell it direct, or do I have to get that from Amazon? Whatever. I think you guys can do this last little bit. Here is the microphone. The Shure 57, SM57. It's exactly what you need. Fun fact. You know how everybody loves the SMB7, the Joe Rogan podcast one they have? It's like a big phallic dick. Exactly the same technology. The only difference is they made it bigger because it makes you feel more professional. But it's the exact same thing. How funny is that? And then the Focusrite Scarlett. It's French. You guys can translate it. Oh, it won't even let me. Jesus. Hold up a sec. Dogfight. The Focusrite Scarlett Solo. You can even add a guitar to it if you want to, or your microphone on it. Those three things, all you need. The one thing I will suggest is I usually have like some lights that I add to this too. I wonder if I should... Oh, they're not plugged in yet, so let me... If you want to have lighting, I'd say the easiest way to do it is... Where is my... LED 60 watt. There's some great options out there. The one I like the best because it integrates well with my phone. Oh, I just have to pull up my orders. I don't know why, but all of a sudden my Amazon and YouTube just showed up in French, so I'm a little slower. I haven't read French in forever. Tabernacle. Oh, there it is. Let's just change that to English. My orders. I'll pull it up and I'll send you guys a link to this one too. This is actually really nice for lighting. Where's the one? There they are. I have 4 of these. They're absolutely amazing. Oh, for fuck's sake. Here, one sec. I'm gonna get the links up and then I'll start answering the questions. I see you guys in there. This is the lighting section. They're a 2-pack, 60-watt, red, green, blue LED floodlight. And it seems like it's overkill, but it's not. You can actually connect these to your phone through an app and then make all the color changes you need. I actually have 4, 1 in each corner. I have 2 diffusers in the front that give you a light shine in the back, 2 in the back to give you whatever color you want to. Control it through your phone. It's absolutely perfect. It's the last lighting setup you'll ever need. Don't worry about everybody's fancy lighting options. You don't need that. And these are only like $100. So you can spend $200 on lighting at the end if you really want to, but you can get by with just 1 pack. Not even any if you have a... The one I used for my first year making YouTube is I just had like a simple desk lamp that I got from like Value Village for $5. And I just pointed it at the wall, and the walls are white, so it just diffused the light coming back. That's all you need to do. Anyways, that's the end of my TED Talk. Upload. I guess, yeah, we'll put it at the end there. I don't know. Just 2. I don't know. What was it? 158? Sure. We'll just call it lighting. Hardware links. So, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. That is everything you need to know about making and editing a YouTube video. Now, of that, be aware your first 400 videos are going to suck ass. They always do, because you have to learn how to use this stuff. And you have to learn to get your own skill. You have to learn to tell stories. You got to learn to be presentable. You got to learn what works, what doesn't, what shirts you should wear, what shirts you shouldn't wear, all this stuff. And it's going to happen. And what I've done right now is I've probably saved you your first year of pain. And so now you only have 2 more years to go of pain. And then you can make yourself a moderately successful niche internet channel based on autism. So that's all I got for you guys here. I actually recorded this because I might make a video of it and clean up the stuff. But at this point, we'll just chit chat for a minute, and then we got to go have our dinner and that. So what's going on, fellas? Let me see. What order do you connect everything? Oh, okay, this is even easier. The Macos camera is just a USB connector. Connects through your USB port. Put it on one of your main ones, not like some goofy one at the front of the tower, and plugs right in. It's perfect. You can buy yourself however you want to attach it to things. Actually, the one thing I should say is nice about it, though, is it comes with the standard. So all camera equipment has a standard screw type for connecting it to things like tripods and that. So whatever camera equipment, tripod stuff you have, it connects directly to it. In mine, I have a thing that's screwed to the wall and is adjustable. That plugs in USB to the computer direct there. The lights, you just plug them into the wall, and then they connect via Wi-Fi to or Bluetooth to your phone. The microphone will plug into your Focusrite Scarlett, and the Focusrite Scarlett has a USB-C connector that connects to your computer. And that's it. It's literally 1, 2, 3, 4. The headset, you want to connect directly to the Focusrite, because you're actually going to get, you can listen to your voice as you say it, so you can kind of self-regulate how loud or how quiet you are, which will help you to keep from clipping things. So, but then once that's done, that's it. Yeah, don't hold your mouth open and say, bear with me too much. Here's another thing you can try. Oh, my hand slipped. Sorry about that, Marty. Let's see. You're saying I don't have end card. What the hell are you doing, Bidley? We're going to have a lot of people probably coming to this one who just want to make YouTube videos. They don't need autism in here. Come on, man. Hey, going back through chat, what else did I miss? I only cry at the end of Black Hawk Down. Yeah, having to do a run like that while you're injured, that would definitely make me cry too. Oh, wow. Thank you, Mish. I didn't notice, but you're cleaning up this chat a lot. So that should be all you need. Now, like I said, when I get into Davinci, I could nerd out about this for hours. Like, what I used to do is when I would make a new vlog or a Red Pilled Coffee video, I would make the effort to try and learn one new filmmaking technique. The one about my book, I learned how to do text tracking. I've learned ones about how to do proper masking and green screen and overlays, text changes. One, I actually learned how to make like the Superman text fly into the thing, which was kind of neat. On some mids watches, I've learned to do it. It's one of those things you have to have a curiosity about. And then as you have a need for something and, oh, that would look pretty cool, you pretty much have to Google, how do I insert effect I want to do here? And then there's a dude who explains it on YouTube who doesn't explain it very well at all. Then there's a forum somewhere where people call him an idiot. And then there's some crazy German forum you translate where the guy goes step by step through it, and then you learn, and then it's awesome. And the way I do it isn't necessarily the way you're going to do it. Like I said, it really is the case that every option in here, like if I just want to have something zoom in or out, There's 4 separate places I can do that, 4 ways I can do it that take various amounts of time depending on how my workflows are set up. So some people, what they do is they create what's called a compound clip. What you do then is you let's say you select all those clips. You can make a compound clip out of that, and it treats all of that as one simple clip. People do that, and then they use that to connect their stuff together. And in the timeline, you can set up all your compound clips. I tried that for a while with Chick Talks. It doesn't work for me, but it's nice. Sometimes a lot of people set it up where they have multiple timelines. They add them together in a final clip. Some people set it up where it's all just one convoluted mess. Some people set it up where there's separate video timelines for all kinds of different things. Some people like to keep it simple and clean on one. It's really sky's the limit. And then once you get into the audio side of things, dude, when you start doing audio editing, like you're setting a compressor to the voice, you start adding limiters, you start auto ducking, you start automatically defining things, start adding reverb, compression, and distortion to stuff. The audio mixer on its own is an entirely new piece of software that's inside of this thing as a small piece of software, and I have barely scratched the surface myself. I haven't even the Fusion special effects menu, I've done more work in there than I have with the audio special effects menu. So it's just to me, it's all in Swahili. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. But again, it's one of those things. Once you get these basics down, like the stuff I showed you here, you can learn that in about a month. You learn that about a month, and you can crank out videos. If I need to, I can edit 7 mids watches in a day. It's a slog of a day, but I can do it. Because I have a template together. It uses very basic edits, very decent basic connections. I use a lot of that Control-C, Alt-V stuff to copy the effects from one section to another. Very easy, very good. The speed editor, when I do those Zomboid videos on my other channel, so much quicker. And I might do a video, but I don't think there's going to be much of a market for people who own one of these things to want to do it. But at that point, I can take a 2-hour video and in 20 minutes, condense it down into 20 minutes. Actually, here's a good example. So here, I'll show you. It's on my other channel. There's 2 videos. The most recent one I did is actually a great example of this. Yeah, there it is. So first thing I did was a live stream where I just tried 2 of you guys suggested games that I try out. One was Kerbal Space Program. The other one was one called Carrion. I'm it's kind of fun. It was 2 hours. We're chilling. We're doing our thing. You can't be killing kids. Then what I did is I took the speed editor, and there's a totally different process to this, and I won't go over it on this one. And I turned that 2-hour video into a 25-minute video. And it took me about 30 minutes to edit. It's that quick, which is great because there's all these dead air sections in there. There's times that we're doing digressions. Maybe there's something that doesn't apply here, it applies there. And you make a video editor, and it's going to be important for you. And I'm guessing I'm going to make this a final section on this. Things I wish somebody had told me when I started my channel that's pissed me off that I had to learn them so slowly. 205. Things I wish I knew when I was young. We'll call it that. When you're starting, I've told you before, your first 400 videos are going to suck really bad. You're not going to like them. You're going to hate them. You're going to wish you never uploaded them. And I'm telling you to do it anyway. Here's what's happening. Nobody knows your shit but you. What people know is that you're putting out videos and maybe they're okay. They'll know they're high quality or not quality, but they still might like them. They might not like them. Here's the problem. You have a vision in your head, and then you have the implementation in front of you. And when you first start out, there's a giant gap between what you see in your head that you can do and what you can actually do. As you practice, as you do those first 300-400 videos, that gap shrinks until eventually you can picture something in your head and you can implement it. And then once you're there, nothing's ever good enough. But at least you know it's good enough that nobody can give you shit about it. So just be aware you have to slog through that, and it's mostly inside of your head. The audience doesn't know the difference. Second thing, you can cheap out on video. Don't cheap out on audio. If you had to specify what can I use for this, what can I use for that, you are better off with that cheap 420k webcam and a good audio setup than you are with just some Yeti Snowball and then a really good camera. People will forgive potato quality video. People will not forgive potato quality audio. Keep that in mind. So if you have to buy it in order, start with your audio setup first. When you are uploading, you need to be as lazy as possible. And I mean that. Don't think I have to work hard. Shut up. Be lazy. If you are filming a 2-hour live stream, like a podcast, like I'm doing an episode of Red Morning, when you're first starting out, you need those 4,000 watch hours and 1,000 subscribers to get anywhere on YouTube. How do you do that? Practice and volume. Take that 2-hour podcast, clip it into 20 different clips, 5 minutes long, talking about a specific topic. Edit those out, put those out together. So now from one 2-hour piece of work you've done, you've managed to do 21 pieces of content, and you do that with everything. On my first channel, same thing. I did a 2-hour live stream playing Minecraft. Out of that, I made a video out of it. Out of that video, I made clips out of it. Out of a thing like our Project Zomboid, the T-Rex Army. We have this thing where we're all playing Project Zomboid together. We're bantering around. It's pretty fun. It's entertaining. Of that, not only... Oh, wait, here. Let's do a good example, actually, from this channel. Where did I put it? Oh, wow. Was it that long ago? It's no longer on my list? Jeez, I am cranking out videos. Oh, there it is. The short. T-Rex Army. Here. You guys might remember this one from the channel. 1-minute video. I did 2 hours of Zomboid with these guys where we're just playing whatever. I made 5 videos out of it and a clip onto this channel to show you guys to go there. So that's already, every hour of work I'm doing is like 6 hours of content. Does that make sense? And you want to get into that mindset. And yeah, it's already going to be crap. So just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Eventually somebody will start watching one. It's not like you have a time limit or a space limit. It's not like somebody's going to see all of these. It turns out what the algorithm does is when you put out a new video, it doesn't show it to all your subscribers. It shows it to like 10% of your subscribers. And if they engage with it to a certain point, it'll show them to the rest of your subscribers. And if they engage to it to a certain point, it's going to start recommending it to other people that watch stuff that's similar. And if they get past a certain point, and then you see how it spreads on there, and that's how virality goes. You literally only have one concern. You need to click this video, and you need to watch past the first 30 seconds. That's the only 2 things they give a shit about. Even if you check your YouTube stats, don't worry about subscribers. Don't worry about impressions. Impressions. Impressions and click-through ratio and the amount of people still watching after the first 30 seconds. You focus on those 3 things and crank out as many things as you can, and I know you'll grow. And you'll have a rough first year, but you'll make it. And so that's it for this one. I'm out of here. What else? Any more chit-chat before we go? Most camera USB ports plug in a computer. Mic plugs into Focusrite. That also connects to laptop. Headphones into Focusrite. There's only one place you're going to be able to plug this stuff into. USB goes into the computer. Oh, just so you know, too, with the Macos, it's manual focus, so you're going to have to dial in the knobs. So don't expect to do fancy things like rack focus and that. But, I mean, you're sitting still and you're staring at a camera. You shouldn't be moving too much. Why not do video transitions on beat with the music, or was I too late? You can do that. It takes time. So here's the trade-off you're going to make as a YouTube creator, too, right? You have to decide if the extra time you're spending on a video is worth the extra time you have to edit. And I would strongly suggest that you make good enough choices. It would be great is if you could have the edits on time with the beat of your music. It creates a flow, it adds things there. But sometimes that extra 10 minutes you have to spend doing that isn't worth the 10 minutes you could have spent getting the video out and started on something else. So it's a choice you have to make for yourself. When in doubt, just good enough is good enough. If you're making 1 million views of video, then sure, if small edits like that could be a difference in 10,000 views or so, I would totally spend the extra time on it. But until you're there, good enough. Yeah, actually, Torch has got some ideas on the lights too. Like I said, these are all topics that you can get into with as much nerdiness as you want to. I tried to give it like basically a good enough bare bones minimum. If I'm not mistaken, you had a video with Rob on his channel on this. Maybe put that link in the description. Oh, fuck, I can't find it. You guys will have to find it and put it in here. But yeah, that was more just like general talk. But this one's trying to get more specific. Was I timed out? I walked away for a minute. I don't think so. Let me check. Was Marty timed out? I don't think so, because I can just time you out now, and it didn't tell me you were already timed out. What's the whole origin of the T-Rex army thing? Oh, fun fact. I think we have Mish Chad of Arabia to thank for that. It was around November, and you know how the semen retention and nofap and the stay off your dick thing was huge? And everybody was kind of having fun with this. It's like, dude, no self-respecting man is going to brag about his jerk-off habits online. And so Misha was like, hey, you guys keep wanting to be alphas like wolves and lions. You should be like the T-Rex, because if your arms are too short to reach, then you'll never fail. And so then it just became like a running gag, and it was like the T-Rex army. And then I was like, oh, you know what? That's kind of funny enough, and it's goofy enough. We can run with that. And that's how the T-Rex army came around, because we were the ultimate in semen retention. Yeah, quit acting retard. Oh, thank you very sir. I'll try not to be late in French. Anyways, hey JD, how's it going? Hey Billy. There's a delay in the video on my end. There's supposed to be. I'm gonna let you guys go now because I want to go have dinner. You guys enjoy yourselves. I'll catch you soon.